Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Punkabye here for MMOBomb.com, and welcome to the Free to Play Podcast, episode 82. Today is August 25th, 2013, a lovely 8 p.m. cool afternoon, or cool evening, I should say, here in California. I've got our two lovely co-hosts, or as SoQ from the comments last podcast said, the co-host from Ghost from Coast to Coast. It's kind of a mouthful. Co-host, Ghost from Coast to Coast. I guess that would make me Space Ghost. That would make Jason Winter. That would make you Brack, an evil genius, gone mad.
So it would if I knew anything about that show that you kids watch.
Well, just know that you were like a brilliant evil genius that got too close to space dust, and now you're like an idiot or something.
I'm definitely evil.
Evil.
Of all those words you said, I definitely have that part going. The rest,
the rest is like, a little bit fuzzy, gray line. Then I also have my best partner, best pal in the world, Zorak, who I love to insult at times and randomly blow up. How are you doing, otherwise known as Kevin?
I'm currently not exploded, so I guess I'm in a good shape right now.
You're a 7-foot-tall green mantis. Actually, I should be the 7-foot-tall green mantis. I'm the closest to that size and skinny enough.
Yeah.
So we got to like reformat this show. Everybody's not in the correct roles, but we've got a good show for you nonetheless. We've got a lot of news, some news from Gamescom. We had a little bit of correspondence up there. League of Legends got hacked. Oh my God. I guess, I don't know. Do people care? I'm 15 million at least, I think. Black Gold, we have a little bit more information about the loot system. Maybe it's time to put the pitchforks away, and then World of Warcraft may eventually be headed free to play. Stick around for that towards the end. Of course, then we have the weekly bombs, both from ourselves and you, the members, finishing it all off with our question of the week, which I realize I have yet to actually share with everyone else in this call. So that will be fun once we get there. Alrighty, guys, so let's go ahead and jump right in. Starting with the first topic, news at hand, we're going to jump over to Cologne, Germany, where Gamescom just occurred. It just wrapped up. And not too much free-to-play information from Gamescom. Kind of expected that. A lot of it's obviously going to go towards the consoles, the new ones coming out, and then a lot of the big titles that go along with those console releases. But we were able to sort of meet up with Nick Van Schip, which I actually know from previous engagements. But he now works at Perfect World Entertainment, and he is the product manager there, and he was able to sort of talk about what games Perfect World may be bringing to the U.S. Now, these games aren't guaranteed to come to the U.S. These are just the ones they are currently sort of evaluating if they would work in the U.S. markets. Keep in mind, Perfect World, they do sort of based out of China. That's how China operates. You have to have a company or like some sort of base, actual office in China to be able to operate there. So in Perfect World China, they have several games that they've released there. Saint Seiya Online, I hope I'm saying that. That's based around an old manga series from 1991. Funny enough, the manga series is not Chinese; it's Japanese. But that's one of the particular MMOs. Then you have Swordsman Online, which actually looks a lot like Age of Wushu and Age of Wulin. Which is because it actually uses an upgraded version of the engine for that. And then finally, perhaps the most interesting one, is Legend of the Condor Heroes, which is currently in development and will be released also in China. But yet, it has yet to be released. Though the other two have been released there, this one is still in production. So we're not sure whether or not it's going to be released in China and other markets worldwide at the same time, or if it's just going to stay in China. But it counts as Perfect World's first action MMO that they made on their own without sort of using the help of like Cryptic Studios, which is a studio that they sort of absorbed into themselves. So have you guys actually had a chance to check out some of the videos that we posted about them? There's several online. I'm going to have to give a lot of credit to MMO Culture, there we go. The Cinder Boy, he does a good job of covering that from China. So if you want to see a lot of the videos regarding that, I would highly recommend checking that out because that's where I found the videos for this one. So what do you guys think?
I don't want to say they all look exactly the same, but somehow they all look exactly the same.
I don't know. The first one is a little bit CGI.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that. But I mean, like, It's like they just copy and paste the scenery and try to change a few things. Like Swordsman Online, I swear, is Age of Wushu with a slightly cleaner engine and weapons. There's no difference. Like it's like a complete clone. It's like they took most of the code, put it in a newer engine, added weapons, and said, "Here, it's a new game."
Okay, so you do realize Age of Wushu came from China. So
yeah.
Like, the engine is based out of there, and the engine itself is something that can be used for multiple games. But I do agree, it looks exactly like it.
The mechanics, the style of everything, the actual like over the top flying through the air chaining combos crap. Yeah,
Jason,
all of it.
I'm curious. Do you think like I don't understand. Are they just saying like, oh, this is the reinvented version of Age of Wushu? Like, from the looks of it, they're trying to say, yeah, this is another kung fu game. But I don't know if it's just Age of Wushu like revamped, or if it's just Age of Wushu mechanics in a better game.
Well, on some level, you tend to think that we're not hugely knowledgeable about the whole Chinese martial arts thing. Yeah, we might have seen a few movies here and there, but it's still not something we tend to encounter every day.
No.
Now, if you were not one of us and you saw two MMOs, each with some guy with swords or some guy with a magic spells or whatever, with a wizard or whatever, you might think they're the same thing too. So I'll give them a little bit of, cut them a little bit of slack for that, not thinking they're necessarily the exact same game. Again, we can't tell how they play. We don't know any of the different, like the upper level sort of gameplay, end game, that sort of thing. So I'll agree that I'm not that excited about any of them. They definitely look not necessarily the same, but they look kind of generic in a way. Is kind of how I would look at it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to get too excited, and I'm also not going to get too critical of just 3 trailers that really don't show us anything other than a few flashy moves.
Some comments that I read on the article of this made a good point about Swordsman Online, and that is the fact that a lot of people do like Age of Wushu. They just feel like there are some mechanics of it that are a little bit clumsy or clunky. So they're wondering if a more revamped version of it, because I looked at the animations for Swordsman Online and actually looked at a couple other videos that actually showed some more realistic gameplay. And the animations were certainly an improvement, a step up from Age of Wushu. So it leads me to believe, people may end up, if Perfect World's like, hey, there's this Kung Fu game, Age of Wushu, we happen to have the more recent version of it, which is actually better. Why don't we just release that and take everybody from Age of Wushu and show them that, hey, we've got the better version of it, That's sort of like an idea that I think maybe they're sort of pondering about. Now, Legends of the Condor, or Legend rather, not Legends, Legend of the Condor Heroes, there are some other gameplay videos out there as well, not just the trailer that we have in the post, and actually shows some of the gameplay. And it's an action MMO, so in the gameplay that I saw, it was like a camera, it was very, poorly shot, but it was at China Joy, so, I mean, you get what you can get, right? So in that gameplay, I saw the fact that it was martial arts, a lot of fluidity and moving about. There was some destructibility, some chairs and tables that were all set out in this martial arts area were getting destroyed and knocked about. And it was very fluid, I'd have to say. But it also was more like an action MMO. The hotbar only looked like it had about 8-9 abilities on it. So, we're not talking about a typical tab target, 4 rows of hotbar skill bar abilities like you would maybe have in Age of Wushu. So I would definitely say, based on all of these, Legend of the Condor Heroes has the most promise. But again, like you said, Jason, it's very early on. We really don't know more than what we can sort of glean from the videos and what we've seen other people write about the Chinese version of the games.
Yeah, I mean, I at least like that. Again, looking at the trailers we had on the site, at least they did show something a little different than just your random battles. They showed some landscapes, showed all the different character models, going through all that. So, because I mean, when it gets right down to it, like Kevin kind of said, they're all kind of the same. They're all if it's all just a couple guys beating on each other, then how am I supposed to distinguish this from anything else?
Yeah,
because every game does that. Just yeah.
I would just think that obviously these games are not the most forward-thinking in terms of like, they're not blowing your mind with what they're trying to offer. But there is certainly a market for martial arts games, and I think right now Age of Wushu, while doing a valiant job and trying to fill that market, it could deserve some competition in forms of newer, more refreshing MMOs in terms of the graphics and gameplay. So I would definitely say that while it may not be the most exciting news or most exciting revelation, And I'm talking specifically about Swordsman Online and Legend of the Condor Heroes. I have nothing really to say at all about Saint Seiya Online. The CGI itself looks like it's from 2002. I mean, we'll say that.
The manga ended in what, 1991?
1991.
It looks like about from 1991.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly know nothing about that manga. I didn't even know people were still interested in something from that age. But yeah, so Legend of the Condor Heroes, I actually think, it may offer some promise, and I think people that are interested in Age of Wushu mechanics, but maybe not necessarily how it was executed, should probably check out Swordsman Online at some point. But yeah, that's sort of what Perfect World's kind of considering on the Eastern Front, moving to the West. We don't know really what they're working on West with sort of their local developers here with Cryptic and so on and so forth. So I guess keep an eye out for that. But yeah, check out the full article on MMOBomb.com, guys, if you guys want to learn more and see the appropriate videos for each of those. All right, so League of Legends has gotten hacked. And it actually is not the first time they've been hacked. This is the second major hack that they've sort of accrued, I guess you could say. Originally, the EU West servers were hacked last year. And now the North American servers have been hacked in a similar fashion, it looks like. Passwords, salted passwords. I wonder if they're crackers, like salted.
I'm thinking pretzels.
Pretzels? Yeah. These pretzels are making me thirsty. If you know that line, then kudos to you for watching that show. If you don't, it's okay. And then, yeah. What was I talking about?
Salted passwords.
Salted passwords. Yeah, that's right. I was starting to think about food and whatnot. Salted passwords, usernames. No, the passwords, they're encrypted, so you can't get into them. But if they're easily guessable, then it could obviously pose a security issue. I think also emails as well. But the hacker, all this information was stolen from 2011. It was about 120,000 accounts worth of information stolen. But the information was from 2011, and it wasn't even the full year. It was only like half of the year. And the hacker actually posted on the forums stating why he did it. And it wasn't to gain people's information and use it, but it was to show that their systems were inadequate against these types of attacks. And I think it was pretty clear that was the case. So it sort of, when they started talking about what new security, because obviously Riot wants to implement new security features now it's been brought to light how inadequate it is. They started talking about, two-step authentication and email authentication, all that kind of stuff. And it got me thinking, shouldn't this been in here, 2 years ago?
I know.
More than that.
When the game first came out?
Yeah.
Not when it first came out, but when you get to, 60 million or so accounts, maybe that's the point at which you should think about it.
When you have a World Championships, which someone's giving out millions of dollars, you think you can invest a little bit of it into protecting the people who play this game?
I mean, even to the point where, they weren't even checking if emails were real, or legit. They were just it's an email address, whatever. No actual authentication at all for emails. So I was baffled. I was really here League of Legends, big game. They're putting a lot of money into it, constantly improving areas of the game in terms of adding new characters and visual updates and having all this tournament stuff. And security, right there, always present. Huge authentication thing. Just, whoops.
Clearly what they need to do is they need to hire that guy.
Yeah, maybe this was his way of being hey, you should.
Here's my resume.
I mean, he posted on the forum. Yeah, there you go. He posted on the forums and everything. Yeah, I did it just to show that I could. And,
they deleted it. Yeah. They deleted his forum post.
Well, sure. I don't necessarily blame him for that, but
because they don't want to let everyone know who they hired.
Exactly.
There you go.
So that he can keep posting about it and be hey, aren't you the guy that hacked?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
You're thinking this is not the hacker you're looking for.
I just work in the mailroom.
Yeah. I move things around all day. Yeah, so League of Legends hack. People, if you play on North America, you should, change your accounts. I think it's actually funny that it was only 120,000. I wonder if it was only 120,000 because that was only the amount of accounts back in 2011 on North America, or if that was because that's all you can actually get a hand on. Because the game has grown so much over the last few years.
Yeah, I think the last infographic said they had 70 million accounts. Is that what they said?
I don't know.
So if you get, I mean, think about 100. Let me just do the math right here.
It's a lot.
I'm trying to remember the zeros, but it's about 0.1% of the total number of players.
When I just meet random people throughout my day, and offhandedly they mention they play League of Legends, and I look at them and I'm like, you are a nurse or you are a dental assistant. I'm like, this game is pretty big. So many people play this game.
I have never known any of my nurses or dental assistants to play League of Legends.
Well, I know people, my age group, nurses.
Oh yeah, you kids.
People
kids.
around my age do that kind of thing. And they play League of Legends apparently as well. But let's go on to talking about a little, I guess, a faux pas that has been somewhat corrected or at least clarified. And that deals with black gold. So switching gears, going from a hack to something that may just be a hack.
Nice.
Yeah, I like that.
I
pun.
see what you did there.
Black Gold, Snail Games. They were like, hey, this is our Chinese loot system. It really sucks. We might be implementing this loot system to the local black gold market near you. And then everybody's like, ho, ho, ho. Not so fast, Snail Games. I don't like this. So Snail Games, of course, naturally goes, well, we didn't mean it like that. Just completely ignore the fact that we even posted that post last week. I don't even know why we posted it to begin with. That's how I felt like they were thinking. Like, why didn't they just wait that extra week and post the North American one? They had to post the Chinese one first and get everybody upset. So they clarified it a little bit. They said, no, it doesn't work. Not all your loot is behind like a pay window or paywall, rather. I'm kind of like, Jason, I wanna. You looked into this a little bit. You talked around. You kind of got a grasp of the new system. It's still confusing.
And I was still wrong. I still screwed up something in my translation.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I was right. It's just a question of whether you can sell the little vials of time before you open them or know what they are. But
can you sell them before or?
I thought, and this is really, I think, how they lay it out on their site. That it says you have two choices. Once you have a time slot, you can buy it and have the things, or you can sell it on the trading post.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
But apparently it's not quite that. You have to buy it. Either buy it with money or with your freebie. Then you can open it, or you can sell that. You can't take an unknown thing and sell that.
Oh, so you have to pay for it first.
Pay for it, or get it as one of your freebies.
And then sell it.
Yes.
What?
Which again is not how they lay it out on their site, but that is how our good friend Mr. Magic Man got the answer from their PR guy. So
and there were some people a little bit miffed about how we thought it was like a certain way, and people have to realize, obviously, we record this on Sunday, so if information changes like it did in this case with Black Gold, sometimes it happens, it's unfortunate and whatever, but they should at least make it easier to understand. Because people were telling me I was wrong, and I was like, no, I'm reading it right here. It specifically states, higher level equipment is stuff you have to pay for. And then they're like, no, there's this post, and I look at that post, and I'm like, okay, now this is telling me something completely opposite. I guess this one now supersedes that one, and I'm trying to like merge the two and see where they're the same and see where they're different at.
There is nobody I know who understood this on a first reading. It's like we talked between me and Magic Man and like 2 or 3 other people. Were like, we had to read it like 4 or 5 times to figure it out, and even then we got stuff wrong. So really, 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 really badly written. Probably a halfway decent system, like not too bad of a system, but really badly explained.
Yeah. So even if the system is decent, like, and it seems better now, but it's so convoluted trying to figure it out, like. It makes me not want to play it to ever find out for sure, just because of all the loops, like the hoops and stuff we've had to jump through to even have an attempt at understanding this.
I'm going to have to make a video just dedicated to showing that one feature off. This, like, all right, guys, here it is.
That'll be a 1-hour video.
The idea of it sounds decent. I mean, I like the idea of getting this extra loot, a couple times free and then getting to pay. I mean, that's not that bad, but...
But see, that brings up another question.
If we're even right.
See, that brings up another question. If indeed that's how it works, you get extra loot. Okay, so what they're saying is you get extra loot instead of, like, in other games you get experience or extra currency if you have, like, a boost or something like that. They're saying in this game, Black Gold, you essentially would get extra loot depending on how long you played and how much you accomplished in that time. So if you did a lot, if you killed a lot of stuff, if you did some bosses or whatever, you may get some extra loot during that time period, and it ranks based on that. So the more you do, the better the loot quality is, or so they say. Now, my question is, does that mean if you play this game a lot and you pay for this bonus, are you potentially pay to winning? Are you paying to get all this extra loot on top of whatever you're getting? Because, like it was mentioned in the article, if you play a little bit every day, you're not experiencing any sort of like cap or any issue with getting loot. You still get your normal loot. You're not like getting all this extra loot accrued that you're just wasting. But if you play, say, 3 or 4 hours every couple days, you may end up, getting into that situation where if you pay, you can get an extra piece of gear that no one else would be able to get normally from just playing, just because it's bonus loot. And I think that would add up over time. So I'm curious to know if people actually are upset about that, or if they think this is like a nice trade-off. You still have to work for it in a sense. You still have to do a lot of stuff and play the game and to commit to the time. You just get this extra loot at the end.
I mean, a lot of it depends on exactly what we're talking about in terms of the extra loot. If it is, I mean, from one thing, just to clarify too, again, you'll get any loot you want, or any loot that's available in the game, like top of the line raid gear or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If you'll get that for free if you just go and you earn it, like you would normally go and kill stuff. So it's not anything on that. Now, what is the extra loot? Is it also top of the line raid gear? If so, then okay. First of all, of course, you might still get some of that free as your bonus. So yes, if you pay for it, you'll get more chances to get that sort of stuff. Sure. If it is instead, I don't know. I guess it would be hard to imagine they wouldn't have some sort of stat.
They did mention that the loot was going to be like rare equipment and rare materials, but that doesn't really tell you anything. It just means that it's going to be like of higher quality. Yeah,
and it could be exactly. And it might, like I said, it might not be the absolute top of the line stuff. It might just be something that's the equivalent of stuff that you need to get into the raid, or that sort of thing. Whereas as opposed to the actual what you get for killing the boss. Until we find that out, it's kind of tough. Yeah.
My question is, if the loot scales to whatever level you're on, if you're only playing for 2 hours a day and you're getting the free loot for the levels you're at, it's not going to really matter, because then someone who's playing a lot more and paying for it, they're going to grind past you and be on a different level. But the people who have played enough of their free are at that level, and again have, because they play their 2 hours a day, still get overall the same amount of loot. I mean, it's just going to kind of scale. I don't think it'll really be too pay to win. It really just depends on, again, the items that come in. If there are some that are like obscenely powerful, that you can get through it, then if you're just grinding a lot and then paying a bunch of money and getting all the loot all the time, I can see it mattering a lot. But I don't see it being a huge deal just because of the amount of extra time they also have to put into it. Because again, the person who just plays just 2 hours and gets his 2 free things, well, if you're just playing 2 hours at a time, you're realistically getting the same amount of loot as someone who played 8 hours and paid for the other 6 hours worth of loot.
And the other thing is, here's how I would imagine myself playing. If I'm going to be a free player, I'm going to play for a few hours. I'll play for like 5 hours or so. Maybe that's how many slots I'll have to be able to buy stuff. Then I'm done for the day. Okay, I'm going to log off, so let me see what I got here. Unless I got more than 2 of the top tier stuff, I'm fine. Because basically, if I got 2 of the top, the best possibility, obviously I'm going to use my free slots on those. Only if I got more than 2, then does it feel like I'm paying to get extra good loot.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying there? So I guess,
I think that's
it would be, I would imagine that's going to be kind of hard. It's going to be very rare that you'll have the chance to do that, so it's probably still okay even on that front.
Very true. All right. So with that in mind, let us know, guys, your opinion, whether or not you think the changes of Black Gold will make you now play it, try it out. If you think it's going to be pay to win or not in that respect, let us know all your comments down below. Now, we have a special topic now to discuss, and that is regards to World of Warcraft and its eventuality of going free to play. Now, this is something that was not discussed on the site. It came in a little bit late, but essentially Tom Chilton was speaking to Polygon. Now, I'm trying to actually bring the article up here because I know you guys don't actually have the link to it. But Tom Chilton, one of the designers for World of Warcraft, was speaking in regards to the free-to-play landscape and for WoW, and he basically said that WoW would be in a bad shape if it didn't eventually actually embrace that model. And it was sort of interesting and somewhat shocking to hear Blizzard finally sort of admit that he's like, yeah, we need to, eventually embrace it. I think everybody knew it was coming at some point, and it doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow, because certainly there's still millions of people paying for subscription fees, but we've kind of seen the handwriting on the wall for a couple of years. At least we've seen where it's headed, at least, with microtransactions and what have you. But he basically just said that for Blizzard, it makes sense going free-to-play at some point, but a lot of the risk is making that transition. You hear stories about developers going free-to-play and getting double the numbers of players, but you don't always know if it works out that way and how long it stays that way. We really don't know what the rate is before people drop off and lose interest. So it doesn't really sound like they're too worried about whether or not they can do free-to-play with it, but whether or not the transition would inevitably harm the sort of player base they currently have and potentially not gain enough subscribers or enough people in their place to sort of make up for that switch. What do you guys think? Do you think it's sort of an interesting, I wasn't really expecting Blizzard to sort of say this is the issue that we have with going free to play, not the very fact that it is free to play. Who wants to...
Wait, what was the question there again?
Okay. Let me rephrase that. Basically, I was a bit surprised by the fact that they said that the area they're most concerned with is the transition from pay-to-play to free-to-play, not actually going free-to-play.
They feel it's an inevitability and that their real concern is just getting to that point.
Yes, exactly.
That's what you think it sounds like. Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. I think it is inevitable that it will, within the next couple of years probably. Year or two, I would think is a decent time frame to put that in. And yeah, you're right. I mean, a lot of companies, let's face it, a lot of them have kind of screwed up their free-to-play transition. And a lot of them had a lot fewer players and a lot fewer moving parts that hadn't been around for 8 years, before almost 9 now, before they went free-to-play. So, yeah, you've got a lot of stuff you got to watch out for, and you got to make sure that whatever sort of barriers. There are going to have to be some sort of barriers for free players. They have to go beyond something to get the full game, to pay for it. Wherever those are, you got to make sure those are all in everywhere in the entire world. You got to make sure that that you've got the system to make sure that nothing gets screwed up by that, and that it also all seems smooth enough that it also doesn't piss people off to a great extent, like say Star Wars: The Old Republic free-to-play did.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's one thing they're worrying about is you have on one hand a lot of people saying, yeah, we'll come back if it's free-to-play. I think they're thinking that they're going to get a lot of old players, but they're also going to get a lot of new gamers who didn't grow up with World of Warcraft and aren't really interested in playing it because it's been around for so long, but would play it if it went free-to-play. So I like you said, I think they're just trying to judge, we're going to lose people inevitably if it goes free-to-play. That's just what they're sort of, accepting. They're basically saying now, how much are we going to actually gain back from that, and is it going to be worth it in the long run? I actually think it will be. Obviously, at some point, the longer it goes not being free-to-play, the easier it is for the transition to occur, because eventually it's going to taper off more and more and more to the point where they go to free-to-play and just the initial surge itself will be, double whatever subscribers. But it looks like they're trying to do that a little bit earlier. And Kevin, I know you're a previous World of Warcraft player. Would you play it if it went free-to-play more so than if you were just considering to go back as pay-to-play? Like, do you think there are any cons to going back as a free-to-play player?
That's a really complicated question because it really depends on why people left the game in the first place. For me, it was changes to the game I was not a fan of. I had a class that they fundamentally changed how it played, and I played it a certain way because that's what I wanted to play, and when they changed that class completely, basically invalidated everything I had done up to that point, which was incredibly frustrating to deal with. And, I mean, I'd come back, I feel like, under the right circumstances. Part of it would have to do with if they made it free-to-play based on the cash up and how it worked, how they changed certain in-game things, with the whole free-to-play stuff. So it really would depend on what the quality of the game is. That I could not tell you for now. I know that there's a possibility of it being a very good free-to-play game as long as they don't change too much. That being said, without the auction houses and some of the stuff that work the way they do, I'm not really sure what shape the game will be in when they switch it to free-to-play, because they're going to have to make a lot of changes.
Yeah, I mean, just think about Blizzard has put in so many sort of programs over time to get old players to come back. They essentially would have to invalidate all of those things to get new.
Yeah.
They would have to invalidate the refer a friend program where you can get someone and level them up very quickly. There's a lot of things that would get invalidated or at least feel like cheapened by the fact that the game went free to play. Leveling up with heirloom gear is sort of like feels cheapened because everybody doesn't have to pay now. There's no time requirement. You can just level up in your free time no matter what. All that stuff sort of comes into question. Are they going to make that stuff available for free players? Are free players going to have to pay for that kind of access to sort of those bind on account items sort of things? Those are things to sort of consider. I myself, I'm going to leave my current opinion of it to a bomb where I will give it because it actually relates to one. So yeah, let us know in the comments. Would you guys play World of Warcraft if it went free to play? There's a lot of things to consider, like it's been mentioned. I think I would play it. WoW holds a special heart. There's like a little room in my heart that has like WoW written on it, and whenever I need to, I can just go in that room and just like reminisce about the past.
That room got burnt down in my heart. Well, yeah.
It's got some cobwebs in there, and it's not as nice as it used to be, but it's still my room. It's like that room from Robin Williams in Hook, where he goes there and it's like there's all rusty and there's like nothing in there, but he remembers his memories in there. That kind of thing. That's what I feel like that room is to me. There's a description for you. All right.
Well, one thing before we move on really quick is I'm kind of wondering if this is why Hearthstone was made as a free-to-play game. So they could test the free-to-play waters and see what it really means for them financially and see how much success they can have with something free-to-play. I don't know, it was just kind of a thought because, I mean, it's Warcraft themed, so they want to see if the Warcraft audience gets brought into it. And they just want to see how well a free-to-play game works under them.
Well, it's currently number 2 on stream, so I would say it's doing pretty well.
Yeah, and also, isn't the general notion that Titan is going to be free-to-play as well?
I would assume so at this point. If they're announcing that WoW is going to be free-to-play, you would assume that they're going to just kind of adopt that model for all future. But maybe not. Maybe they think that if Titan's that good, people who are so used to playing WoW that it's not gone free-to-play, they're not going to play it anymore. They'll put it in a sub for Titan. Who knows? There's a lot of ifs, and Titan's still at least a couple years off, honestly. All right, so weekly bombs here. Of course, I'm going to give my A-bomb first, and I'm actually going to give an A-bomb to Hearthstone. Now, we've been praising Hearthstone over the last couple weeks. My podcast, we praised it, and the live stream, I liked playing it with you, Kevin, and we were high-fiving and beating the crap out of everybody with the Warlock deck. I like the game. Don't get me wrong. It's a good game. But the gold system in the game is so convoluted. You don't gain gold. So you use gold to buy packs, and you also use gold to enter into the arena, which is a draft mode for those of you who play TCGs. The packs are 100 gold, and to get gold, you have to either complete quests or win games. If you lose a game, you don't get anything. And completing quests usually requires you to play certain decks, which you may or may not have cards for. So I have basically been unable to win a lot of the quests because of the fact that I think the quests actually go away after 24 hours, so you have to do it in 24 hours. And if it's in the deck that you're like terrible at, and you have to play against someone online, and they have their own special deck, and they're not doing the weekly or the daily quest or whatever, you're just gonna get screwed over and over and over again. That's what happened to me today. I played like 8 games with a deck that I didn't really have any cards for, only won one of them, and basically wasted all that time and did not get any gold for all that work I tried, to work up to that quest. And the fact that the draft mode doesn't even give you the cards that you actually draft, which is sort of like the fundamental of how draft mode works in other TCGs. In fact, there's a thread on Reddit about it right now in Hearthstone dealing with gold generation, arena cost, pay to win, etc. And one person says, does Wizards of the Coast send you a deck and then delete the cards from the online game? If so, that's pretty awesome. So basically what he's saying is, does Wizard give you cards to play in a draft mode and then delete them afterwards? Because that's what Hearthstone's doing. And all of that combined, it's already made one of my friends not want to play it after he gushed about playing it, and I let him play on my account. And it's pushing me away from it because it just takes forever to generate cards. And if you pay $100, all of a sudden you have a ton of cards, And because there's no trading in the game, you can't even trade with friends to get the cards you need, and so you're just kind of up a creek without a paddle.
Yeah. No, and to answer the question, no, Wizards, if you draft on Magic Online, you get all the cards you drafted. So, I mean, I know some people will go into drafts not trying to win. They'll just try to get cards that they need for their online decks, which I don't know if is like the cheapest way to do it, but I just know that's how they pull it off. But yeah, they get the cards they need for other stuff, and they get to keep it.
How much does it cost to get into a league, into a draft?
In drafting on Magic Online, it costs tickets. You earn tickets by winning stuff. So let's say you enter, it takes like 2 tickets to enter. If you win, you get like 3 to 5, depending on what kind of draft you're doing, things like that. So as long as you're decent at drafting,
you can do it for free, basically, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, let's see. The last time I played, I had, I don't know. You can grind up, like if you're decent at drafting, which is not that hard to learn, you can easily build up a gigantic pool of tickets.
Okay, because
I mean, spent.
Because I think, of course, in the realm of the real world, which is where if you go to a draft league, you're going to pay $15, $20 for the cards, and yes, of course, you get to keep them because there's no other way to do it. Yeah, and the thing is, here's the big secret: a trading card game, at least in the real world, in the physical world, is a PvP pay-to-win system.
Oh yeah,
pure and simple. So I mean.
Yeah,
expecting it to be otherwise in an online game, it's nice if it is, but it's kind of hard to. I understand why they're a little hesitant.
That's why they're doing the CCG. I feel is exactly that. Is because you can pump a ton of money and get all the rare and super powerful cards versus someone who can't afford to do that gets stuck with the lower tier stuff.
Yeah, basically, what I feel it does is it really devalues the cards a bit. By not being able to trade them or anything like that, you essentially when you get cards you don't need in Hearthstone currently, you can't do anything with them other than disenchant them for meaningless amounts of dust, which you can then use to make cards you do need. But you first need to unlock that card before you can actually make that card. So it just creates this bottleneck situation. It's still in beta. I hope they fix it, but they could at least give you the cards that you drafted. I mean, come on,
Heck, just let us pick like 5 cards from what we drafted.
Yeah, just because it is only slightly more than paying 100 gold in game to buy a pack of 5 cards. You pay 150 to play arena, and you have the chance to get you always will get a pack, but then you also get like gold, maybe some extra cards, an extra pack, depending on how you could do in the draft. But at least let us pick depending on how many wins that we got in draft mode. Let us pick 1, maybe 2, 3, 4, up to 5 or so of the cards that we played with. That's my suggestion. Blizzard, I know you're not going to hear this, but that is my suggestion. Jason, what is your A-bomb to bomb?
I'm giving an A-bomb to what I call subscription superiority complex.
What is that?
Well, as you've probably known if you've been following the news and so on this last week, both WildStar and Elder Scrolls Online announced their monetization model, and they're both going to use subscriptions. Of course, Final Fantasy XIV just is coming out. It's like in its open early access period right now. Going to launch for real next week. It has subscription. Of course, it's still World of Warcraft, Eve, a few of the other games, but because of all these new games coming out with subscriptions, what I see on a lot of message boards is like, free-to-play is dead. People think it's the greatest thing that's going to come on. No, it's all subscription from now on. Get back to me in like a year and a half after all your games have come out. See if there's still subscription. If anybody can announce being a subscription and having a box fee, if it's got even a remote amount of hype or any sort of build-up or has people interested in whatever, it'll sell. It'll sell, and it'll do great for a few months at least. Maybe it'll even go longer than that. Talk to me in like a year or two and see if you're still a subscription game.
The funny thing about that is any free-to-play game that sees remote success just kind of reinforces to all the other people who play free-to-play games that, like, we don't have to pay for these games. We can get good games without having to pay a ton for them. So
the one argument
sit back and wait.
The one argument I had with a guy, and this was in regards to Guild Wars 2, which does have a box price but doesn't have a monthly sub. And this guy just wouldn't go on about how they haven't had any substantial updates. That's because we're not paying a monthly fee, so they can't afford to update the game. And it's like they've had like 15 updates. Now they're doing it on every 2-week cycle. It's like, yeah, clearly they're not making money without a sub fee.
Yeah.
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 People.
Well, I think that Elder Scrolls Online may drop their sub faster than WildStar.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that.
I don't see it lasting very long,
And
actually, with the sub.
Yeah,
personally.
I think they're just doing it right. I think honestly, you know,
And they're
developers-
gonna have an item shop.
I know. It's like they already know. They already know it's gonna happen. They're just doing this to get our money.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely a quick cash grab.
It's pretty
Maybe like
I
6
think-
months.
I
Maybe
think,
6 months.
I think like a year or two ago, like we were like, you know, oh, it comes out pay to play. They, you know, they may think they can still do pay to play, but now I think people just realize they can't do pay to play, and they need to just sort of recoup all this huge amounts of money that they invested in this game by doing it very quickly, and then saying, oh, we're free to play now. Hopefully, you don't mind.
I won't lie. I thought SWTOR would work. I thought it could work.
I did
It
too.
could have had they not destroyed it. Like,
I don't know. At its core, it was still like when I look at the
it's
difference.
still WoW
in-
with lightsabers.
Yeah, when I look at the difference in, I mean, if you look at Elder Scrolls Online, which uses the same engine,
No, it doesn't.
it
No,
doesn't. I thought it did.
No, that came out once. They said they used it for a prototype, but it doesn't exist. It's not there anymore.
Okay, well, don't mind me. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Kevin, what is your A-bomb to bomb?
Mine's a da-bomb to a webcomic called Cyanide and Happiness. It's a kind of a dark, but I
Really? It's
absolutely love
dark?
it. Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little
Cyanide?
bit.
Sign and happy.
It's dark. Okay.
But they just, last week they started, well, okay, a couple months ago they had started a Kickstarter, because originally they had been contacted by a couple cable companies and stuff to create an actual show. And unfortunately, they wanted to keep all creative control over the show, because the three guys that do this absolutely love what they do. They didn't want to lose any of the creative control. So it ended up they couldn't come to anything, but they still wanted to make a show. So what they did is they put up a Kickstarter. And they got it overfunded with, I think they hit like 300% of their goal. So because of it, they're now doing these weekly video shorts for the foreseeable future. And they started last week, and again, first one was quite on the very dark side, but again, I loved it, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing this, because they did a long period where we didn't have any shorts, even though they do the daily comics. And it was something I really missed, but yeah, it definitely made my day the other day. So every Thursday, Cyanide and Happiness, new video short, go watch them.
Awesome. All right, so the member bombs. I'm going to go ahead and start with Shasso33. Yeah, I think it's Shasso or Shassau33. He says, A-bomb to Plants vs. Zombies 2 for acquiring a front-facing camera. Seriously? Why do I need a front-facing camera on my phone to play Plants vs. Zombies? NSA, man, they got to make sure. They got to make sure they know what you're doing at all times.
They're monitoring your high score.
See, I didn't even notice this, but yeah, so I'm not sure. I mean, I guess that's true, but I put it on my iPod and stuff, and that all has a camera on the front, so I didn't even know that was a real thing. Kind of stupid.
Maybe it's how they tell, like, that's how they collect information of who plays their game.
Watch you play.
They just watch everybody play at one time. It's like Batman, but without Sona.
If I ever
like-
get Plants vs. Zombies 2 for my phone, I'm going to play naked.
Oh, yeah.
Take that, NSA.
All right, guys, there's your image for tonight. Jason
playing
playing Plants vs.
Plants
Zombies
vs.
2 with his iPad. I think we can call it a wrap. There we go. All right.
Do me a favor and don't get too excited about the game.
You never know what'll sprout up.
Oh, yes, you went
Kevin.
there. Okay. Kinetic Fetus. A-bomb to you, Spunkify. You know what you did. Wow, subscription.
I started playing WoW again. I can't help it. Like this is the longest I've gone without playing it. It's like
No, let's clarify this for everyone who listens. He not only did he start playing, he's attempting to bring me back in.
Yeah.
Worst part is he's succeeding because he's piqued my interest today. He caught my interest with a little bit of info. I was like, really? That is.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Step away from the light.
Mr. Pandaria, from what I can see, I've played now for like a week. I've been back for a week. Mr. Pandaria seems like a way better expansion than Cataclysm. Cataclysm was pretty terrible for me, and everybody's like they had like their glory days when they think WoW was the best, and I just enjoy raiding, and I haven't found an experience in WoW, in other MMOs as enjoyable as WoW in terms of raiding. And once there is an MMO that comes along that piques that interest and does it as well as WoW, then yeah, sure, I'll take a look at it. But I don't know, the lore and the universe, it just makes me want to come back. It's like, it's that little room in my heart. Just come back to that every once in a while. So Connect Fetus, you can give me an A-bomb all you want, but I'm going to play it after this. So what about that, huh?
You know you're going to hear from him.
I know I'm going to hear from him. He's like that. He could definitely be in like a horror movie, just like some kind of like always moving fetus, always in the back, always like judging you and being like, what are you doing? And you're like, oh god, it's a fetus. All right. Question of the week from last week then was, what makes a great online trading card game? So Jason, why don't you go ahead and take Mega 17?
Mega 17. All right, he says, basic essentials like UI, art cohesiveness, turn structure, and balance aside, I think the most important online TCG element is card usefulness. Creature cards, in my opinion, should always have abilities, preferably flexible, non-generic ones, so that the game is rich with potential combos to discover. I hate seeing pure flavor cards because you can always find a card with the same stats and a useful ability. The more of them, the more I feel the creators were just lazy and couldn't come up with anything.
Yeah, that's something I have to agree with. Having played a ton of Magic, one of the common things we like to call is the Grizzly Bear. It's basically the exact same card in a bunch of different forms, but all boils down to the original version of it. That being said, there's still a lot of card usefulness in the game, and that's why it's so successful. Especially under the last few years, it's really grown because they've made an effort to put flavor on cards that have abilities and stuff, and really make the game very, very expansive in what you can do with it. But if it's all just the same stuff, carbon copy, like, oh, this one's a different color. Okay, so this one has the exact same stats, but it's a cat instead of a dog. I mean, that just kills it in a hurry.
So the next one then was Jones? Or Jones? Jones, what's up? He says, 3D representations of every card you play in an online TCG game make a great online TCG. Yeah, I ripped this off of Yu-Gi-Oh!, but I love the idea of knowing the card wasn't just a card. But after seeing Hearthstone, I can live without it because I remember a lot of the NPCs and abilities from World of Warcraft, so I have what/who they are painted inside my head. So basically he's saying that, why don't we have more 3D card games? Which I agree. There are some coming out, though. There is Warhammer 40k, yeah, and there's that other one too that's like 6 players at one time or something. I forget it on the top of my head. It was called, I'm bringing it up right now.
Called,
I can't. Well, okay, so there's Panzer General Online. That's a hexagon turn-based game that has some TCG elements into it. There's also, of course, Warhammer 40k Space Wolf, and then Combat Monster. So there's 3 right there, all that have visual representations of the units on the field. When Yu-Gi-Oh came out, I so wanted there to be I remember thinking as a kid, I wanted there to be like a little thing I could sit in front of my computer and then slip my cards in so that it would scan it and then show it on the screen. That's what I imagined when I was like however old.
There's this really old, I want to say it's a GameCube game. It's called like Duelist of the Road, is this or something like that? It actually, like, it's not like a normal like version of Yu-Gi-Oh! You played like the cards. But it would actually, you'd have the monsters and move them around in like a chess kind of idea. It gave you 3D representations of all these cards that you played with, so that kind of got there, but
there's another game called Chaotic that I think was Deck or I don't know, I don't remember who made it, but yeah,
that's stuck around for like 3 months. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but it had a scanning thing as well. They hit the heck out of me, us at the Scry, to try and promote that. Or no, I think it was when I was at Beckett. But yeah, anyway, they really wanted, they had some sort of thing too where you could scan the cards and it would go into your computer. You could play something on your website. So I don't think it was like a full 3D sort of special thing because that would have required, talent.
And technology.
Yeah.
Money.
All right. And then finally we have Air Splash.
Okay, so Air Splash. I grew up with trading card games such as Magic, Pokemon, and most prominently Yu-Gi-Oh! Aw, come on, Air Splash, really? One of the biggest disappointments as a kid who collected the cards was that they were just cards, nothing special, nothing mind-blowing or fun about it. The joy, at least in my opinion, was the collecting of the cards, which I hope they try to incorporate into online card games. Also, as with Yu-Gi-Oh!, I'm hoping to see some monsters beat the crap out of and kill each other after they come out of a card. Yeah. I can't argue with that part. I mean, but Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm gonna get flack for that. I know from everybody because they're like, "Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh's not dead." But
I like the show better than I like the card game.
I still have to deal with the card game on an almost daily basis at work, so that's
I'm glad I no longer have to deal with the card game.
Did you not like it? Was it a bad card game?
I wish it would die in a fire.
Well, for me, it's not so much the card game as the R&D department for it, because when the card game first came out, it was actually pretty decent. It had a good idea behind it. It had some balance.
It was only mostly broken.
Yeah, now it's devolved into beyond broken combos all over the place to the point where they have to ban cards that literally came out 2 weeks before, or like even most 3 months before, or limit them to one, like ban all the time. Like cards get banned constantly. It's like, do some research, make sure it's not broken before you print the card. No, they're like, nah, we're just gonna throw these cards at people.
So basically, what you're saying is they just kept adding more and more overpowered cards constantly.
Yeah, without any like thought of balance. And then the worst part is it makes these cards when they come out like $100 to $150 a piece, and then they get banned and they're not worth anything. Also, these people lose a ton of money on it too. So, yeah.
Well, okay, there's your public service announcement about Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game. Don't play it. From your resident experts of TCGs. I myself am terrible at TCGs, as Kevin can attest, but
you're getting better. At CCGs at least.
At CCG. Well, I'm starting to get the mechanics down. It's been the last one I played was Pokemon in like elementary school. That was like over 20 years ago. I mean,
you wouldn't even recognize the game anymore.
No. Alrighty, guys. Well, the question of the week this week is, what style of MMO do you want to actually play next? So we've been getting a lot of fantasy, some sci-fi recently. You know, we've got a bunch of different games coming out. EverQuest Next, WildStar, ESO. Elder Scrolls Online. There's even that one horror-looking MMO coming out, which we don't know if it's free to play or not, so we're holding off judgment in terms of covering that. But I'm curious, guys, if you had to choose what sort of genre or style of MMO you would want to play next, what would it be? Would you want to be in a horror-infested world, something like kind of like Secret World, but maybe more actiony, sci-fi, martial arts? Let us know. What about you, Jason? Do you have any personal preference of what you would like to see?
I still, it's cliche, but I still like fantasy. I like well-done fantasy. I've played a little bit of other stuff, but I guess fantasy MMOs are the old and stodgy thing that I like, in the same way that you still get attracted to WoW.
Yeah, I guess so. I think if my fantasy at least has a fresh face, like if it's shown a little bit differently, different, then I can always get back into fantasy. But there's some people who are just like completely tired of dwarves and elves and magic in the traditional sense. I mean, we got games like City of Steam, which still has fantasy elements in it, but is definitely not fantasy in the sense that it's steampunk. So I'm curious, guys, what sort of style of MMO are you craving? What's on your appetite? What do you want? Kevin, do you have a particular interest?
For me, it's close between two. I'd either like it to be a full-blown Western, like, Wild Wild West kind of crazy shootouts and all that stuff, or go a little Firefly on it and make it a space Western.
Oh man, that's sort of like Eve. Eve's kind of like a space Western.
But really from kind of like the single-person point of view.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for a sci-fi MMO. Like Star Citizen, if that was an MMO, like completely thousands of players, it would, I think, be the perfect Starship MMO. But that's a whole nother topic of discussion, because that's a buy-to-play game.
But I think a Western one would be a lot of fun too, because you could like raise cattle or just be like there's so many things you could do with it too.
Do you think like a Western with like the combat system, save for the bullet time from like Red Dead Redemption, like third person over the shoulder, you can get behind cover and pop out, that kind of thing?
Exactly, I would love it.
Yeah, there you guys go. Imagine if Rockstar made Red Dead Redemption MMO. That would be so nice. All right, so that has gone ahead and been our question of the week. Remember, you can submit your responses down below in the comment section if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching this on MMOBomb.com, well, we already have a comment section right there. What are you waiting for? Drop us a line. Tell us your question of the week responses, your D-bombs, A-bombs. I want more of them, guys. I love hearing your responses. And if you guys have a witty comment, who knows? Maybe we'll talk about it in the beginning of next week's episode. From all of us here, let's go ahead and rattle off our respective social media accounts. I'll start. Spunkify. You can reach me at Spunkify on Twitter. That's at SPUNKIFY. Kevin, what is your Twitter handle?
I am at no social media K. Do not forget the K because it doesn't work without it. Yeah, Kevin, and I still don't have a last name. Eventually, maybe I'll get one, but not yet.
Maybe.
Not yet.
And this is the part where Jason, you give us your grand finale.
Yes, I am on the Twitters at Winter Informal. I stream on twitch.tv/JasonWinter. I'm going to have hopefully some tech issues figured out this week so I can stream a little bit more and with better quality.
So I'm going to just throw this out there. You guys tell me if this is a good idea or not. I'm saying we ditch Twitter. We start Instagram MMOBomb podcast. That's what we do. Instagram is like the new Twitter, isn't it? Isn't that what everybody's hip and into? We just need to be posting pictures of ourselves all the time.
I hear Tumblr's popular too right now. I don't know.
Who tumbles like who's like? Have you ever seen someone on their phone and been like, "What are you doing?" I'm tumbling. No.
I don't know. I don't care about social media, obviously.
Guys, my LiveJournal account is still around.
Oh man, I think I have a Zynga somewhere if I actually really looked.
My MySpace might be active. I could probably go.
MySpace, it's like you got a disease.
But see, MySpace is even younger than Zynga. But I guess MySpace would be like Lindsay Lohan, where you're like, it could have been nice, but just look what she did to herself.
Yeah.
There you go. I think that's like the perfect way to end this episode, guys. All right. Appreciate you guys coming out for this one. As always, this has been the Smokify/co-host, Ghost, Space Coast, Barack Obama. No, I don't know. What is this right here? I don't know. This is the ending, I guess. I'll see you guys next time. Smokify out. Later, guys.